introduce Gunnar, bring you in. You're the president of the Minnesota Off-Road Cycling Association, correct? Great. So Gunnar joined us today to talk about fat tire biking, and by the looks of the weather out there, it won't be long, and we'll be starting to freeze some stuff. It's supposed to get cold this weekend. I actually drove by Afton Alps yesterday. Was it yesterday morning or the morning before? And they had the snow guns running in the morning, so they were blowing some snow down there. So the season is almost upon us, Gunnar. So
it's time. Yes. Are you ready for me to share?
yep. Why don't you go ahead and share your presentation, and
All right.
let you get started.
Good deal. Well, first of all, thanks for the introduction. Yes, I am Gunnar Carlson, and I am the president of the Minnesota Off-Road Cyclists. And my screen is acting up on me here. So that's me there. I am the current president of the Minnesota Off-Road Cyclists, or MORC as we like to say. And I'm 46 years old. I'm a lifelong Minnesota resident. I grew up in the western suburbs of Minneapolis, Hopkins specifically, and I currently work for the community engagement. I'm the community engagement manager for Riverton Community Housing over at the University of Minnesota. And I also serve as a trustee of the board of the Voyagers Outward Bound School when I'm not busy doing stuff with MORC and with biking. And previously, I was part of a research team at the Metropolitan Council that produced a research study on youth in the outdoors, and the research focused on attitudes and opinions of minority youth towards Twin Cities regional parks and outdoor recreation. You can find that report on the Met Council's website if anyone's interested in some information on that. And I'd like to encourage all of you to take a look at any of that, but that's enough about me and about my passion projects. Let's talk about some fun stuff with some biking. And so specifically, we're here to talk about winter trail riding and some maintenance concerns. I just want to make sure everyone's aware as we start thinking about, it'll be here all too soon for some. But before we get into the specifics of winter trail riding and what it takes to maintain the trails, I just want to tell you a little bit about MORC and who we are. So MORC began in 1994 as the North Central MTB group. And 10 years ago in 2011, MORC joined IMBA, which is the International Mountain Bike Association, through their chapter program. And it was a mutually beneficial partnership for 6 years. And in 2017, we took the organization independent again, just in an effort to ensure that a maximum amount of our dollars were being donated and were being devoted to local trail efforts. And so during the IMBA years, we had paid staff, but we're currently an entirely volunteer-led organization once again. So again, 100% of donations are going to local trails since we have no paid staff. And so where are we today? You know, MORC is roughly around 750 paying members. That recurrent volunteer number is probably going to be double that this year. I'm happy to say it's still about 7 standing committees, 17 or 18 trails. That's always a bit in flux. And we do have year-round trail maintenance crews, which is what we're going to be talking about today, along with having all of our major sponsorships. And then we do have in-house trail building and maintenance training. So we do all that from the local effort, and we do purchase our own trails and equipment for everything. So when we talk about MORC and knowing a bit more about it, so that's how we're able to accomplish our mission of gaining and maintaining trails. But now let's get into the actual talk about winter trails. And so people often ask me how MORC manages to maintain snow trails throughout the Twin Cities region on those 17 trails. And we're very proud to say that our trails are some of the first to open throughout the region. And I always tell them that the secret is it takes a lot of work. There really isn't a secret to this. So here you can see an example of a rutted trail during the dirt season on the left of your screen. And we all kind of know that this is bad for a dirt trail. You know, trail damage like this means hours of work in trail maintenance to fix for our volunteers and for us as an organization. But the scene on the right is the winter equivalent. And so what you're seeing in this picture on the right, you're seeing a fat tire bike, a winter riding bike, and you see that really iced out, rutted trail right there. And this happens when people ride winter trails when the temperature is above freezing. And unfortunately, that is really, while it's not damaging to the surface below and the natural surface of the trail, it is damaging to a winter trail to have those kind of conditions. And it can make for a very unsafe condition for a lot of people. And I know we all want to be out there on those beautiful warmer days. I mean, that's when it's fun to be out in the winter landscape, right? But it's important to remember some simple rules to help trail crews that we have keep the trail system in peak shape. And so right here, you have a really nice infographic that just kind of explains some of the real simple things. First of all, when you're winter riding, you don't want to overinflate your tires. You do want that tire pressure, depending on the type of snow or condition you're riding in. If the snow is soft or if it's really fresh, you probably want to be down to 2 to 4 psi. And if it's a hard packed snow, but not that icy condition, up in that 3 to 8 psi range. So really as minimal as you're comfortable with. Obviously, being less inflated is going to lead to more rolling resistance and things. So we all have to ride to our abilities, but the less tire pressure, the better. Another really important thing is don't salt the trail. So when you get to a trail, you know, we all bring our bikes there on our vehicles. You kind of want to clean them off before you go ride, and this is often an overlooked step. And so just ride in some fresh snow or ride around somewhere first in the parking lot to just kind of get that salt and all that road grime off of your tires and make sure that they're clean when you do get on the trail so that we're not contending with having that snow melt and stuff on the trail, which can lead to those icy conditions we were looking at. And then, of course, we want to be respectful of these trails. While it is nice to get out there and hike, and I do know a lot of people tell us that our trails are some of the nicest to hike on and walk on, we really discourage boots or dogs because that does damage the trail for the biking and for people to be able to enjoy in this way. But snowshoes are awesome and are actually really great for being able to help us do our job better of maintaining these trails. So please get out there and snowshoe. And so why is it important for you to do your part? Well, it takes a lot of time to groom winter trails. So on average, it takes about 5 hours to do a single 8 to 10 mile trail. And of course, flatter and straighter trail goes quicker, but it all requires a significant time investment to groom a trail after each and every fresh snowfall. And it takes a lot of money. As shown here, MORC's made significant capital investments in equipment to make our volunteers' jobs as easy as possible. And after this year's purchases, or last year's purchases, I should say, were actually well over like $65,000 that invested in grooming equipment. And all of this equipment requires regular maintenance and upkeep, as well as storage and insurance. So it is quite the investment for the organization to make. And usually, you know, I have people start looking at the numbers of this and asking us why we do it. And we do it because it's a labor of love. And, you know, our volunteers dedicate hundreds of hours of their time every season to ensure others can enjoy the outdoors. And I always like to show this picture. This is a great example of one of the machines we're using. That's like, they're actually like a kid's snowmobile, right? They're the little 200s. We fabricate special equipment, a snow drag that would go on the back of this snowmobile. And that is what is creating that flat and groomed surface for people to ride on easily. You can see the volunteer here has a headlamp on. A lot of our volunteers, you know, will try and have the trail groomed and ready to go by 7 a.m. So that means they're out there between 3 and 4 a.m. to start and make sure there's a good section of trail. And if you get out there right away first thing in the morning, you know, first light between 7 and 8 a.m., you're probably riding behind a trail volunteer who's still, you know, out there doing that work. And so just so you know, if you're looking to ride any time of year, you should be able to track trail conditions before you head out. You really want to do that. And it's especially true for winter riding. The Trail Conditions app, Trailbot, is your best bet for the most up-to-date grooming information on all the MORC trails, as well as many other regional trail systems. And of course, you can always go directly to our website for the latest MORC trail updates. But that Trailbot app is going to give you a more comprehensive list. And I personally like it because if our stuff isn't open or something in our trail region isn't open, you can see the greater region, northern Minnesota, southern Minnesota, as well as some outstate stuff from some of our neighbors. So if you're interested in maybe taking a trip and finding somewhere, you're going to be able to find it. It's also to be noted that this graphic is in the process of being updated. We've added new trails since this was made a few years ago. So online resources really are your best bet to know the latest trail conditions. We are dealing with natural surfaces, and so everything changes. And with that, I just want to make a pitch for each and every person to join MORC. You know, memberships start at like $30. Sponsorships are available for as little as $100. It can be customized to meet the needs of the business or the individual. So if you and your family are looking for somewhere to make any kind of investment, you know, or an ongoing donation, we accept those too. So feel free to reach out to discuss any of this. And you can reach me easily at president@morcmtb.org. So I'll just throw that out there for you guys. But it is really great if you can give the gift of grooming, and we can continue to keep buying this equipment. We have a plan right now to purchase for any trail over 5 miles. We'd like to have 2 machines so that we could lower the burden on each volunteer and have a couple of volunteers coming at it from different ends and get that trail groomed faster. Those machines are running us somewhere between like $11,000 and $14,000 each right now. We do have to go to the regular market, just like everyone else. We no longer get like in-kind donation or have any sponsorship there that allows us to buy them at a different price. So we're competing with you guys. And currently we have a wonderful volunteer who for the last 2 seasons has actually driven to the UP to pick up a couple of machines for us, because that's the nearest dealership where we've been able to get them for our needs. And with that, I'll stop talking at you and I'll just ask for questions, and I'll answer anything about MORC or about winter biking.
And we talked the other day, Gunnar, about the gift idea, and I think that's kind of something I started a few years ago too. And we're doing one on state parks coming up, I think the 23rd of November. But there's all these really cool organizations like MORC that a lot of people don't really want more stuff all the time for Christmas, but maybe you have a friend or a relative or somebody you're looking for a gift for. That might be a really cool thing to do, is instead of buying them a gift, is send them a membership to MORC and encourage them to get out and do that. So because we work for the DNR, I have to throw that shameless plug in. It's a great thing for state park passes too. But
yes, indeed. I use that a lot.
And I want to point out too, and you mentioned a little bit in your presentation that, you know, MORC kind of does the metro area stuff, but there is other organizations for our listeners that are out in Duluth or up in Cuyuna or down in Rochester. There's other organizations similar to MORC that do a lot of trail work down there that you should connect with. And I don't know if I didn't ask you previously, so don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you know of names of any of those? I know Cuyuna is a kind of a state recreation area, so that could be linked through the DNR site to find information there, I believe. But
yep, you can also, you know, Cuyuna has a few different social media presences and things that make it really easy to find out what's going on with their stuff. But, you know, you've got, they're usually going to be orcs or okas or ogs. Like you'll have cogs. You know, in general, if you were to look up, Torca is one. Up on the North Shore, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what they call themselves right now, and I am on the spot. But if you look up the name of like the area, and then Grimba, I think, is one of the ones, like the Grand Rapids mountain bike area. If you look up the area and then mountain bike, you'll usually be able to get to them. And I can try to feverishly, I'll look around right now and pop some in the chat if I can, for all of our neighbors. But everybody is doing a great job. And I will say, one of the great things about social media and about being able to look all this up, because again, we are dealing with natural surfaces. So it's always great. You get the latest updated information. And if people have been out riding and there's a down tree or conditions have changed since yesterday, that's the best place to learn about that. Sometimes we learn as an organization about changes to trail condition because people choose to post it on their, you know, their Instagram or their Facebook first, and then they might send us a note letting us know that there's a hazard or a change in condition.
I did see one question in the chat. Sarah was asking if you have any tips for people that are new to winter mountain biking. So as Minnesotans, I know we have a lot of gear already, but what are some tips for the new riders out there looking to get into this?
So the biggest thing as far as tips is how we're going to dress, right? And so like one of the things, the biggest mistakes that people always make is that they really focus on their head and they want to have like 5 layers on their head because they think they're going to get cold. And we really neglect our feet and layering properly in our body, your head is almost always going to be the warmest spot, just because that's where things are trying to escape from. So like if I personally, and as we can see, I'm follically challenged. If I'm riding in the winter, I am going to put on like a, like a skull cap, like one of those, a thermal beanie, I guess you would call it. And then I put my helmet on. So it's like a helmet liner and then my helmet. But I don't wear, unless it's extremely cold, I wouldn't wear like a winter hat and then my helmet over that. And the reason for that is the moment you get out there and start getting active, the heat is going to want to escape from your head. So your head will stay warm. Your ears are important. So always, make sure your ears are, but don't worry so much about your head. Your feet, though, do worry about your feet and your legs. Wear your layers. Snow pants are great. If you are going to wear snow pants or be bundled up to that extent, make sure that you're doing something to bind the leg where your cranks are. Otherwise, you're going to get, like when we were kids, you'd have the rubber bands.
The rubber band, yeah.
Yeah. So you want to do something similar. A lot of times it's electrical tape for me at this point, but just something to make sure, or put a sock over it. But I always want to make sure that I have on like my wool socks that I would wear when I was out in the field or something. And I'm really going to be, I'm stressing putting a lot on my feet and keeping them warm because they will get cold, and I'm not as worried about my head. And that's probably the greatest advice I give you. And then make sure your hands, your extremities.
I just took them out to my shed. I think I just ordered for my girls. We had talked the other day about, I don't do a whole lot of fat biking for the simple reason that my tires are 2.8 inches wide, so they don't like that on the fat bike trails. And I love to run my dog. I have a sled dog, a husky, that loves to pull me, and which is a blast, but probably not the safest thing on a icy trail. But I do love getting out on the lakes and the river. I live not too far from the St. Croix River, so we get out there. But I bought one of those, what do they call them, over mittens? You slide your handlebars in them, and then you put your hands in there. Those things are phenomenal.
Yeah,
I love just to keep the wind off of your fingers, and those are great. So
yeah.
I had a couple suggestions. Somebody put in there, cyclists for Gitchigumi. Must be one of the organizations up north.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And somebody asked about an organization, Fargo-Moorhead area, or northwest part of the state. I just Googled that, and there's a FM Trail Builders Facebook page up in that neck of the woods. So give you a
and if you connect with them, there's some good guys. I've talked with them before, so they're working on some stuff. We do all chat. It is pretty much a small family, right? So we're all volunteers, and so best practices are shared amongst us all to make it easier on everyone.
Lewis wrote in, are electric fat bikes a good option in the winter? The electric bikes are getting to be more and more popular all the time.
Yeah. So this is something that as an organization we're tackling right now, and really for the first time. MORC as an organization doesn't own any of the land that we manage. We have partnerships with great landowners and land managers who allow us to build and maintain trail on their land. So that means that they're the ones setting policy and telling us, what the rules are on their land. So they decide who gets to ride an e-bike and who doesn't. We're dealing right now as an organization having to say, the way we build and maintain and what we think is safest is this type of e-bike or this. So we're looking right now at Class 1 being the greatest mix of increasing accessibility and also making sure that safety as a concern is still kept in the forefront. So yeah, I think that the level 1, which is a pedal assisted bike up to 20 miles per hour, is a great option for anyone who wants to get out there and needs that bit of help. I know that I've ridden one of those types of bikes, and boy, I'm not as tired as I would be otherwise when I'm done riding. So that's kind of nice. You can ride longer. But yeah, they're really great options and great bikes. I would cautiously recommend that anyone who's looking at anything, there are a couple of companies right now that are marketing these, they call them snow bikes, and they do have a mini track on the back, and you do pedal them. Oh. You can pedal them. So but those are, they are not compatible with traditional bikes being on the trail, or even level 1 more traditional looking bikes that we would say. So avoid anything with a throttle assist and make sure that it's still pedal assist. But yeah, it's a great option to get out there. And I think anything that allows you to enjoy the outdoors is a good idea, right?
I know from a coaching standpoint, especially our high school kids are so fast, like ridiculously fast. And we have a few coaches that have gone to the pedal assist bikes just for the fact they'd want to be able to keep up with some of these younger
Yeah.
kids that are coming out, and they can fly so fast. But there's always something that happens every year where somebody gets the reminder that just because you can go fast doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And you need to have the skills to back that up too, and be able to handle that extra speed. So
Well, that leads me to another just tip for everyone is like, we know that when you ride, if you're tired, that's when accidents happen. Your skills just aren't as honed. And so if you're feeling tired or dehydrated, which happens a lot to winter riders, we forget to hydrate while we're riding. Make sure you're
mhm.
stopping, you're drinking that water, you're keeping yourself hydrated. And when you're feeling tired, it's time to turn around or it's time to be done for the day. And there's always another day to enjoy, but don't push it too much, especially when we're dealing with these extra conditions.
it is it is a lot of work to push a fat tire bike through snow, and you will work up a sweat. And it's with the drier, cold air, it really does suck the moisture out of you. I think that's one of the even winter camping, cross country skiing, anything you're doing in the winter, staying hydrated is a key, and it's hard to do if you're kind of on that borderline chilly thing and drinking cold water. So I always like
Yeah.
those thermoses for that. But we did have a
Well,
couple
I know
questions
yeah.
about the primary differences between uh, just a regular mountain bike that you're going to go out and ride all summer and a fat tire bike. And if a person is looking to purchase one, which way would they lean, or any tips on that on purchasing a fat bike?
The biggest difference is going to be a bit of the geometry, but not so much the geometry. They're going to be similar in terms of, and when I say geometry, I'm talking about the actual frame building, and that changes the posture you sit in on the bike. What we would call a more aggressive posture, or has you up more over the handlebar, like the racers and probably your daughters are aware of. But we ride more upright, and like in winter, it's more about exercise and enjoyment. It's not about needing to be more aggressive on the trail per se. So the bike's going to be built a little differently for comfort and for longer riding as opposed to shorter, more aggressive rides. And so the biggest difference is they're able to accommodate that larger, that wider tire. And so they're just a bit heavier, a bit beefier. They're built a bit different. They're going to have different gear sets. So they're going to be able. They're made to actually ride in the winter, and they've taken into account that you're probably going to be, well, you're pushing a heavier bike, so that gear ratio matters, but you're also bundled up a bit more. So they're just built to be a little more forgiving for all of that. You can get bikes that do allow you to switch out the tires, so they're kind of a best of both worlds. And I guess if you're looking to get just one bike, then your minimum tire width that you want is really going to be around 3.25 inches. So you need something that can accommodate that, but maybe then you could switch out and have skinny tires on in the summer to be able to ride better that way. And there are some options out there for that.
Yeah. I know he had a couple of guys that ride, they're recreational riders, they're just out for fun, and they ride with their kids on the trails around here. Whitetail was where I typically ride, but they ride fat bikes year round. They're summer, they're capable of doing that. It's like you said, the gear ratio is a little bit different, and they're a little heavier, and they got those big tires, but you can still ride them all
Oh
over.
yeah,
So
I see it a lot now, and uh, inflating those tires up and then riding, you're still on a wider tire, so you're gonna have more stability maybe as you're going. And so it's a great way to get out there and enjoy, rolling over some of the obstacles and things is going to be a little easier. Um, you know, it's a great way to ride, and we see a ton of them out there at all times.
and Brad asked in here, says, thank you for sharing this presentation. He's enjoying it. Is MORC involved in any new trail plans in the metro area or beyond in the next few years? Has MORC approached MnDOT to utilize any of their property for potential trails?
We are always looking to expand what we do. So MORC as an organization does not go out and lobby for new trail. We come in and support local groups when they have decided they'd like to have a trail there and started to put that together. So we're more of the administration in the back end and then bringing in the expertise and the best practices and all the relationships that we have. But we do not devote a lot of time to actually scouting and lobbying for trails in certain places. So that's the first thing to say on that. But to answer your question most directly, yes, we are involved in many different potential projects throughout the Twin Cities. Nothing that I'm prepared to bring up at this moment, but I literally, as an organization, we probably get a half a dozen to a dozen emails a week of people saying, "Hey, it'd be great to have a trail here. I've been talking to someone here. Can we do that there?" And we do vet all those and go through those, but there's a long process that leads to a trail actually showing up in your local area. That's years in the making, and we have already done all the work on the back end to help build and train a competent volunteer crew to ensure that when that trail is built, that it is going to be supported and sustained and maintained properly. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are the best stewards of the land that we can be. And so you got to have those things in place first. So yes, we are looking at many things. There will be some really exciting stuff opening up in Monarch next year, up in Elk River. I don't know if anyone's seen any of that. One Track Mind Foundation came in and helped fund that project, but there's going to be really neat wood features there. You've got bridges that are passing over the trail, and they're very wide. They're like 10, 12 feet wide. So it'll be accessible to all of us. But some really fun, exciting new things coming to the Twin Cities area, as well as some other stuff that'll be for more of the stuff I don't do anymore, the more advanced riders and those who want to go do some of those obstacles. But yes, we're always looking at expanding and looking to do what we can do. So by all means, if anybody has an idea for a trail and is looking at or has land that they would like to see trail on their land, you can reach out to us and then we can connect with some local volunteers.
And Brad, I'm sure you're always looking for volunteers to help out with trail work, because that is a ton of work to build trails and organize all that stuff. So,
yeah,
Jeff,
every one of our trails actually has a weekly trail work night. Anybody's welcome to go. You can show up or you can sign up, and it's a great thing to do. Young children, you need to give us a heads up if you're planning to bring some young children. There are some rules against them using certain equipment and things. We can always find something for someone to do. It may be invasive species removal, i.e. weeding. But that's still a fun family activity, and you can really contribute to your local park or your area and help maintain that natural resource and make it available for everyone. So yeah, I would encourage anyone who's looking for any of that to check out our website too. It should list all the weekly trail maintenance sites.
Yep. Any spot locally to wherever you are across Minnesota, you can find somebody that is doing trail maintenance. So Jeff's mentioned Gore-Tex socks as a great thing for the winter, and we had a couple suggestions on pogies, the over mitt things. Can't remember the name of. So, and one of our DNR employees here, Jamie, thanks for tuning in today. We do have, I think after this webinar, actually everybody gets directed to the Fat Tire Biking page on the DNR website, but he's wondering if you'd be willing to take a look at it and help revive some of that. As a beginner, they could use some advice. So maybe I'll connect you to after this program. So we are definitely not experts in everything, and getting advice from people that are out there doing it and participating in the sport is always helpful for us. So Colleen brought up a great point. I actually just went to the bike, or I have to go to the bike store after this, hopefully over lunch, and check on my daughter's studded tires.
Okay.
So Colleen was wondering about, can you chat a bit about studded tires? Are they worth the extra investment and hassle of changing them out? I would 100%. It is a hassle changing them out. I run tubeless tires. I run studded tires in the winter because I'm on ice and roads and stuff a lot. So I love them for that. I do not like changing them out. But what's your opinion riding a groomed trail versus me out there riding on roads and rivers?
And so I think it depends on what your riding level is. You can ride on them anytime you want. There's two different things you can do. Actually, we should just take a step back. You can buy studded tires, And there's different, studs you can get in those and different lengths, I guess I would say. But there's also tire chains, which I don't know if most people are familiar with, but you can get these tire chains. And they're almost like, I consider them like the bike version of yak tracks. Those can be a little easier or maybe even a little more of a pain. You got to take the wheel off of the bike. You got to make sure most tires are deflated enough that you can get it on there. And then, you do inflate a little more to get that chain to grip and stay on. But those can be a nice option too. That's maybe a little less of a pain to deal with. But as far as I'm concerned, I like studded tires, especially if you're someone who's commuting a lot or riding in lots of variable terrain. If you're someone who maybe just goes to a groomed trail and rides groomed trail and then comes back, I don't know that I would consider them a necessity. But I mean, that's me. I think having good tires on the bike and having the tread from those is probably enough in that instance. But if you are riding, to and from the trails, have the opportunity to slip on ice, which I'm very famous for all through the spring, especially when we're still, you want to get out and ride, and then there's still ice. So yes, they can be very helpful, but they do, they chew up groomed trail as well. So if I have my maintenance hat on, it's like, if I have my rider hat on, yeah, anything that makes it more safe, I guess, for me, or makes me feel more secure in my grip and my riding, I'm all for it.
Great. Yeah, a question from Todd in the chat there. If you guys please put those in the Q&A, it makes it a little easier to follow along. But Todd said he's been riding a summer bike for exercise for years. Where's the best place to buy a fat tire bike? Not looking for an electric one, but he's moving up to Mora at the end of the month. I think just about any local bike shop. I'm not specifically familiar with any in Mora, but there's just about every bike shop I see have some selection of fat tire bikes. So
Yeah, that is always the best, is to go to your LBS, as we say, your local bike shop, and check in with them. Minneapolis has an amazing bike community. So you will find when you go into shops, the last couple of years have been interesting with COVID. Everything was sold out forever, but shops are starting to have inventory again. So it's a great time if you're looking for something new, as well as if you're looking for something used. We have a great culture of bike trade in here. So you might be able to find a used bike that maybe somebody picked up a couple of years ago and then decided wasn't for them. Um, you know, that makes life easy. Another great option that I love to tell people about at the end of a season um, is to go look at all the shops that are renting bikes. They'll usually sell that rental fleet every year.
yeah.
So again, if you're looking for a way to get into this and maybe save a little money, that's a great option. If you've never ridden fat bikes, as we call them, fat tire bikes, and you want to give it a try, you can always rent one, and that rental is usually going to cost you somewhere between $30 and $60 for a day or a half day, depending on where you get it from. But that way you can check out different bikes, see what they're like, know what you're going to get, and then maybe even you're kind of shopping for end of the season and get your name on that list and pick up a bike that way.
Yeah. And a bike's just like everything else. They're specific to you. So you can't just say, oh, here's a bike, this one will work. Like it's nice to be able to try a couple out and find one that fits well. It doesn't hurt your back or whatnot, or isn't, they have bikes, everything from, I suppose, I don't know what a fat bike weighs, 40, 50 pounds down to some carbon fiber full suspension fat bike. I'm sure somebody makes that'll sell you for 10 grand.
Yeah.
So there's a wide variety out there in what you can look for. So
Yeah. And that, to go back to the frame geometry, every company is going to be different. So do try them out. Not every bike, like you were just saying, is going to fit you the same or going to be the same. That is where your local bike shop comes in handy too, because they're going to, fit you. They're going to measure you. They're going to know, looking at your size and shape, everybody's torso is a bit different. Maybe your legs are longer. They're going to help you find the right bike for you so that you can stay out there and really enjoy as long as possible.
exactly, great point. Eric, Gunnar, I don't know if you know this or not. This is news to me, but Eric sent me a message here that says Global Fat Bike Day is Saturday, December 3rd. I didn't know anything about it. Do you?
Hey, I love it when somebody leads into me getting the opportunity to promote. Yeah, Global Fat Bike Day is coming up. It's been going on for years. We, MORC, traditionally will be down at the River Bottoms again this year, the Minnesota River Bottoms. There will be more information on it because I don't know the address to the parking lot we're in right off the top of my head. We're more on the east side than the west side. We're not at the old ferry bridge. We're more to the east side. I should know off the top of my head and I don't. But at any rate, we'll be there. This year we are we're partnering with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, who manages that wildlife refuge of that area, as well as City of Bloomington, who part of that land is theirs that our trail is on. That is the original trail of MORC. That's the one that started this organization 30 years ago or so. And so we'll be down there for Global Fat Bike Day. Currently, we're looking at having some group rides that'll be led by a couple of volunteers from MORC. So if you want to come down and ride in a group, you can. Last year, we had a lot of kids come. We have warm drinks, so we'll have, some cider, some hot cocoa. This year, I think we're going to do some brats and hot dogs and stuff. So please do come down if you get a chance. It's a great place to be. Deep Woods Groomers is also going to be down there with us, and they do all the grooming down there and are one of the other organizations out here that is helping to groom a lot of the metro area trails that aren't necessarily our trails to take care of, or helping with some of the trails where our volunteers can't always get to. So yeah, you can come check out the equipment that does the work. You can get in on a group ride and do all that. And last year there were probably about 100 to 150 bikers there, so you can come meet some cool fat bikers.
Awesome. And Brad put in the chat there too for winter commuters. He's had really good luck with Continental non-studded winter tires, and I think this is kind of like shopping for car tires. There's multiple brands and multiple widths and tread designs and all that stuff. So it's
And they
always
will
good to
be
get
much
good
like
recommendations.
winter tires on cars. That compound of that tire is going to be different.
Yeah.
So, you're going to wear them out quicker, all that stuff. We all know that. So you just have to balance all those different considerations. But yeah, great option. Continental makes some great tires.
Jamie asked, repeat the date. I believe it was Saturday, December 3rd.
Yes, it is. Saturday,
okay.
December 3rd. And there'll be events, I know, going on all over the area as well as up north. But we have ours every year, and it's fairly local and it's a fun time. We'll have our event tents out there and some heaters just in case. Last year there wasn't really even any snow on the ground, but hopefully we'll have some snow this year for people to ride on. But either way, they were doing rides. Yeah. So, and if you haven't been down to that River Bottoms area recently or ridden down there ever, it is really fun. It's very accessible. It is about as easy as it's going to get in terms of terrain you're rolling over. So it's really just about getting out there, getting some exercise, and enjoying a beautiful, beautiful bit of nature.
Great. Eric pointed out that Tonka Cycles out in Minnetonka does a big event for Global Fat Bike Day. And is that related at all to, is it QBP that does their winter bike event, the Quality Bike Products in Bloomington?
QBP does, yeah. Well, Global Fat Bike Day, I don't know who originated it, but it does happen. It literally happens around the world for everyone on that same day. So there'll be events across the country. But we are lucky that, since you bring up QBP, like QBP is one of the top 3 bike parts producers in the world, and they're right here in our backyard. They're based in Bloomington. Yep. So yeah, they do kind of drive a lot of these initiatives. Great partner to us too. They've always helped out when needed to be. So I just want to throw that in there. We've got a good citizen in the area here, working for us and helping keep
Frostbike
going.
Eric said Frostbike is the one that they do. So I've been to that event before, and that's a big deal there. So Sarah's asking, she didn't see a list of events on the MORC website. Is there a page to learn more about, where'd it go? To learn more, or a listserv to get information on some of these events like the Global Fat Bike Week?
So that's interesting that we don't have that. We did a migration to a new web server, and so maybe some pages didn't make it over. Again, the joys of a completely volunteer-run organization. But so thank you for letting me know that. But also, a lot of what we do is to put it out on social media. Otherwise, you can sign up for the newsletter from our website, I believe. And from there, we do email blasts and those kind of things. But if you are following us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, any of those kind of things, we do blast out from there too. And then email is going to be the easiest way. And then hopefully we'll get the events page back up on the website. Other than that, we don't really do a traditional listserv like we used to, and we don't have forums like we used to, but the email list is going to be your easiest bet.
Great. She wrote in there, thank you right away. So, yeah, and I think somebody else pointed out that Facebook is kind of the go-to to find out the latest information on stuff for not just MORC, but a lot of organizations out there. So
We
I
have
think
a
that's all we
wonderful
had.
Facebook group, Minnesota Mountain Bike Enthusiasts.
Okay.
And it is, I jokingly like to say it's one of the least toxic pieces of the internet that I found. It is a really good group for the most part, and I know we all have our, social media is what it is, but they are very good and very helpful. And there's a lot of great information there, as well as you'll see a lot of people when they're seeking out group rides or looking for people to meet up with at a trailhead to ride. They'll get their information from there, which is always nice. So
Awesome. I don't see any other questions in here, Gunnar. I really appreciate you coming in here and sharing your knowledge and passion. I would beg that mountain bikers and just the biking community as a whole is probably some of the most laid back, easygoing, welcoming, and passionate people around the state. If you run into a biker and have a problem, 9 times out of 10, the next bike that goes by you is going to say, "Hey, you need something? You need a hand or anything?" So it's really great. So
yeah, I've gone through probably about a half a dozen tubes in the last couple of years, and I haven't had to replace one on my own bike. So, but yeah, we do all help each other and make sure things are good. And all in all, I just hope that more people are able to get out and enjoy themselves. And winter riding is the fastest growing segment of our sport. That is the reason that as an organization, we've decided to make such a major investment into this equipment and really focusing on training volunteers to be able to groom this stuff. But it's just important to remember, if you're able to get out there at sunrise and ride a beautifully groomed, fresh trail, it's because somebody got up a few hours before you to get that trail ready. So, and that's all volunteers. So thank you to all of you who
yep.
volunteer and do what you do. And, we've got a great community here in Minnesota.
Yes, we do. So, and being that we're talking about fat biking, I know this winter we don't have our winter schedule out quite yet, but it is coming. I promise. We have a talk on dog sledding in Minnesota, and one of the big fat biking things in dog sledding is the Iditarod. Have you heard of that? The Iditarod trail up there. People fat bike that 1,000-mile trail. So I always thought, I'm like, that is just crazy. There's it's 1,000 miles. I've been up on the Iditarod before, helped volunteer for that, and you're out there. So there's a lot of places you can go with a fat bike. So
It's
I,
also becoming an interesting thing, the wider tires, and you see it for hunters and accessibility and being able to get to their spots and do this kind of stuff these days. And so that's a whole new thing that we hadn't really even considered, but it's nice to see maybe some more human powered or some cleaner, greener forms of experience in the woods and getting to those spots and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's just expanding all over.
yeah. I ran into a guy and his son at the youth hunt up in St. Croix State Park that were doing exactly that. He had like a burly cart for the back of
Yeah,
his bike so he could haul out a tree stand, and they used kind of the trail system to get real close to where they were hunting, and it's a great way to go.
yeah,
So we got one more question that popped in here. Cameron
yeah.
asked, wanted to hear a little bit more about the winter grooming. I think you kind of covered this in your presentation pretty well, what type of groomers you use, how often you groom. So
Yeah, so our groomers are completely custom. They're 100% fabricated for us by one of our volunteers. It's a design that we've I guess I'll say perfected over the years, over the last 10 years or so. So we're running, it's a drag, essentially a weighted drag behind that snowmobile, uh, and there is another device we use that's called a snow dog, which is like you stand on it. It almost looks like a lawnmower in a way, and you kind of ride on it. And then we have a drag on that as well that you can use, but it's a weighted drag that is going to go directly behind whatever vehicle you're using to get through there. And that's how we groom a trail. There is also something that the other groomers are working on right now. That is, as we go through the changes in our climate, we're having so much freeze thaw and warming up during the days and then getting real cold at night. We're working on, they're trying to create it almost looks like a hamster wheel or a cheese grater that is cylindrical and rolls that will actually kind of, it's like a Zamboni for the trail, so that we could actually, chew some of that up, redo it, and then come back and drag over it to recreate that surface. But in general, we're just running a flat drag on there. If we get to those rutted out points, like I showed in the video here or in the presentation, where you've got that ice, some of our volunteers will actually, when they're out there, if there's a big enough group, they might come in and start shoveling or snow blowing that snow from around the trail back over that surface, and then come back and re-groom that. But again, that's going to be another 5 to 8 hours of work if they have to come in and re-groom everything from a new snow pile that's been put on, as opposed to a couple of hours to do a pass on something that's already been groomed that just needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
It's a lot of work that goes into that. So again, thank you for joining us and sharing your passion, your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it. Everybody out there, next week, we're doing the art of wildlife photography with my friend Gordon Dietzman. It's going to be another great talk. And then we're going to do state park opportunities and fishing for northern pike. So that'll be closing out our fall series, and our winter series will be announced here shortly, hopefully in the next week or so. So thank you, everybody. Until next week, I wish you a safe and happy week out there, and enjoy if anybody's hunting or doing any of that. Enjoy and be safe. So I think with that, Amber, we can go to the back.